Thank you,
I
Commissioner Sanders.
watched you on TV.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You do a good job. Everything, so
We'll be
that's
okay.
a whole different crowd.
We'll be okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate everybody being here. We have a very long day today. The time is now 11:08. This is the SPLOST 9 meeting. Madam Administrator, the floor is yours. Call this meeting to order.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of our governing body. We will now go back into our SPLOST 9 discussion. At our previous meeting, the total that we left with was $407,574,000. We have received a couple more additions to the SPLOST request. So I just want to cover those additions to see if there's a consensus to respectively add these requested adjustments to that list, and/or if there's any consensus of adjusting the original, the final list that we were working with at the last SPLOST meeting. So there's been a reduction request for lock and dam of $1.74 million, $10 million for affordable housing, and an additional $5 million specifically for May Park, the Laney Museum, $500,000, the Augusta Museum, $500,000, the Downtown Development Authority, $1 million, which would increase it to $250,000, South Augusta Water Park, an additional $2 million, and Fleming Park, an additional $6 million. So the estimated total now would be $430,084,000, which is pretty much a $22,510,000 increase. So I guess the question would be if you would like to add these respective items to the list from last time, or are there any respective adjustments? I will remind you that we have to have everything approved with the final list, with the actual notices and everything that have to be signed by our neighboring counties to the Board of Election by August 18th for them to take the meeting up and have it voted on for the ballot in November.
All right. Thank you, Madam Administrator. Colleagues, I don't see anybody in the queue. See Commissioner Johnson, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Administrator. How much was originally recommended for the DDA at the first presentation? Was it 750 or was it a million? I see that they requested 2.5.
It was 750,000.
750. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I have one additional question, sir. The Fleming Park, can you give us a little information on where we are currently with the Fleming Park upgrades?
Yes, sir. There were previous funding allocated for Fleming Park. ISM, who's here today, I think Mr. Latson can elaborate a little more on it. He's been working with Ms. Williams. This is an additional request so that they can have indoor tennis facility. But I'll let Mr. Latson elaborate a little more on that.
I think, name is A.B. Ladson, I'm with ISM. I think on, this is probably Fleming Tennis Center. Fleming Park itself is actually about to go under construction. The park actually has been cleaned up from the debris, so that's actually about to go to construction. This right here, I think you're referring to Fleming Tennis Center. Fleming Tennis Center right now is actually in the preliminary and final design stage. There was a request to do some analysis on what would it cost to do an indoor tennis center. And so we did that. We did 3 scenarios, one without any overhead structures, one with an air-nasium, and one with a total enclosed structure. So the one that would include the total enclosed structure would cost an additional $6 million for that particular project. So that's where we're at on that. If the body elect to approve $6 million to do that, then that would be what we would consider a phase 2. We still would go on with the completing the design with that included, and then also phase the construction. That $6 million is basically for an enclosed structure.
Okay, all right, that was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Chair recognizes Commissioner Tina Slindat.
Hi, Mr. Ladson. The $5 million for May Park, isn't the facility at May Park, didn't that go out on procurement already for the building?
No, what we're actually doing, May Park is scheduled to be, the design is scheduled to be completed at the end of October. And that includes everything except, I think this is for the gymnasium, the $5 million. But this project that we're currently working on right now is actually a grant project. It's funds that we actually got. I think it was like about $3 million to do planning, design, and then construction. So currently right now, we're in the final design stage, and that project is scheduled to be let by the end of this year for construction. So
the
and that's a grant
Grant
project.
is going to be paying for the new gym?
No, ma'am.
All right,
I think
that's
this
where
re-
I'm confused.
Yeah, I think this $5 million is in addition to pay for the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
The gym hasn't gone out for an RFQ yet?
No.
Okay.
Currently, this is they put in a community center. There's some other different functions, parks functions that's going to actually be put there. So it's an actual major project. I can share some of the, I think I have some information there, but I can share some of the concept designs on that particular project.
Is there any water feature? Any water feature planned?
There
for
are some
May
water
Park?
features plans on that as well. And I have a copy of it here. I can share that with you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, Chair recognizes Tony Lewis from 6.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Administrator Allen. Administrator Allen, in looking at the State Veteran Cemetery, I see no numbers in that, and I think when I brought it up the last time we were here and we were talking about it, I think the mayor corrected me when I talked about the 23 million. They corrected me and said that was only $3 million, but I don't see anything on the second. So is there a recommendation from you for the state veteran cemetery?
No, sir, the governing body pulled that one off.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I didn't remember.
Yes, sir,
it
they pulled
being pulled, so when was it pulled?
That was one of our previous SPLOST meetings.
Okay, was that one of them?
They
Okay.
rescinded the request.
But I
Yes, sir.
did remember the mayor mentioning that number had been reduced to about 3 million or something to that effect.
Originally, it was reduced to 3 million, but
Okay,
they,
so after that, it was pulled. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Chair recognizes Commissioner Stacy Pulliam for the second.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. First off, thank you for all of your hard work, Administrator Allen, going back and forth. I know, even as I was listening to the budget session last night, there are so many requests, and so it's finding the money to, make sure that we can meet all of these requests and narrowing it down. So it's not an easy task at all. Last time, what was it, about a week and a half ago, we met, and I had a question regarding the 10 million that was set aside for a new park when we're still in the process of deciding whether or not, or deciding which parks we're gonna pretty much just get rid of. Thank you so much, Commissioner Clark. But, right, digest, that's the word I was looking for. I'm getting so much help this morning. But where are we at with that? Because you said that we were gonna come back to that.
Yeah, Commissioner, currently, we have cameras out, and we're still putting cameras out, and we're scheduled to be completed probably by mid-September, at least with the first round of data. And we're going to have that information to Ms. Allen so they can start making some decisions as far as their budget is concerned for next year. So we're right on target. Interesting enough, we started analyzing some of the data, and it's interesting that you might have some parks. We were was talking about one park where we had one person, I think in the past 15 days to walk through a park, and then in some parks you have constant functions there all day long. And so what this camera does is actually, in some parks we have multiple cameras, so we make sure that we get everything. And this camera snaps pictures every 15 minutes.
Okay. And so I appreciate that. But simultaneously, between us figuring out the traffic, are we also looking at what the cost is going to be to do renovations to the parks that we keep?
Yes. If we go back to our initial presentation, we presented, there were 4 items on there, and in those items, they covered the county. There wasn't a specific project that was pointed out. There were 4 areas that would actually take care of those parks that would be considered utilized.
Okay.
And so that's why we didn't put a name on it. And I think Ms. Allen had mentioned it in her last meeting, but we put that in there, made it general and countywide. And that would cover us.
And that was, do you remember how much that was? I'm not looking at that right now.
I want to say with the 4 items, it probably added up to about at least $20 million.
20 million. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to start with Carrie Mays and Bernie Ward, 2 parks that I don't believe will be eliminated or should not be, for sure. And with those, they need major work. Carrie Mays is consistently flooding. It's outdated. It's small. So when I'm looking at 10 million, although the area, I'm not going to argue that it doesn't need a place for people to gather and whatnot, but Bernie Ward and Carrie Mays both could use a total renovation. And so when it's 20 million, that 20 million, I'm assuming, is going to be split between all of the parks that we keep. I'm sure we'll keep Warren Road as well. Is that going to be enough?
I think for right now, I think it's going to be difficult until we do get the results and analyze, because there may be some cases where we think parks are being utilized and they're really not. So, but we'll bring that data back to this body, and we'll make some recommendations. But I think, but it's still going to be up to the body to make that decision. That's why we call it it's a decision support system for you guys to make that decision. We'll do a recommendation and present that, but it's going to be you guys, this body's decision
To do that. So Administrator Allen, I remember you saying the last meeting that some projects we just want to name outright so that we know that those funds go to those projects. Because all of this will fall under Parks and Recreation, would it be a hard ask to say instead of the 20 million that Parks and Rec were requesting, it could be a total of 30 million? That way it's not a particular project that is named as far as building a new park, but we make sure that we are able to fix all the things that are wrong with our current parks and any possible expansion projects that are needed. Warren Road, again, one place. I remember having meetings in Warren Road and the ceiling pretty much looking like it was about to cave in. So there's so much work that needs to be done at a lot of the parks that we have because they're aging facilities. So could we entertain something like that instead?
Yes, ma'am, you could. The only thing that I will caution you about is in some, you don't want to identify every respective project, but when you're going out for the voters and their support in certain areas are asking for certain things and they're saying they want a new park, they want to feel that they have a guarantee it's going to be a new park. And so that's the only thing I will caution the body about, because the residents will be looking for a new park. And if we're saying we're putting the 10 million there under that to make a whole 30 million, and we're not saying you might get a park, they're going to be like, well, I may possibly not support it because I don't know that's going to be one of the projects that's going to be focused on. That's the only thing about doing the generality.
And so a lot of what I hear here on the dais is us taking a holistic approach and us looking at all of Augusta, right? And so you can look at all of Augusta for sure, but each and every one of us were elected to be a voice for the constituents that we serve, because we're on the ballot the same way SPLOST is going to be on the ballot. And so with that being said, if our messaging changes behind it, and it's $30 million to if we need to build new facilities, but also maintain the facilities that are caving in, because here we are with a new facility and someone else's roof is leaking every time it rains, and when it comes election time, we can't even have, we're scared about whether or not we're going to be able to have elections, or we're having to close the actual where they play basketball because it's flooding inside of it. So what type of messaging is that? Is that telling our constituents that, hey, we know you need things fixed in your area. However, me getting a brand new facility is more important. We'll deal with that. What is it? Carrie Mays was probably built when? You said, Commissioner.
I know they put a new roof on 11 years ago.
Okay.
So I know it was built way before then, but.
I'm hearing maybe the 70s. So I was born in the 70s. I'm not going to tell y'all how old I am, but that's been a minute. So is that the messaging we want to send out? Or do we want to say we care about the parks across the board, all of our park and recreational facilities, and so we're going to use this money to either, to fix what we have first, because that needs to be fixed, and then we can build something else. Because the same way there's a voice for a new park, I'm getting calls, and there's a voice for me, or there are people that are coming to me asking me to be a voice for them, and that, hey, we're tired of it flooding over here. Hey, we don't have enough room. Hey, our AC is not working. Hey, this is going on. So I am that voice. They may not be able to come to the meetings and say that they want a new facility, but they're trusting me to be here on this dais to say it for them.
And I'll say this, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Commissioner Pulliam. All of the parks, and I said it at our budget meeting, have not been taken care of as they should have been. And a lot of them need a lot of touching up, a lot of major renovations to them. And that's why so we're not trying to change the message that we support one park or one area over the other. That is definitely not the message. What I'm saying is, in order for people to support it, they all need to know what is going to be intentional as it relates to some of the projects. We could put it 30, if that's what this governing body wants to say, 30 million, but you leave the question whether or not there is going to be an additional park. We already know that there are funds available to do the renovations. So we know that the parks will be taken care of. The thing about it is, down the road, after September, when we get that information back from ISM, that's when this governing body is going to have to say, we want to spend those funds that if SPLOST gets approved on these respective facilities, we don't need to keep these other facilities. So that our maintenance costs would now be concentrated on these facilities that we're keeping, as well as the respective SPLOST dollars. That's the only thing. It's no different than when we're doing the infrastructure projects. We've identified certain areas, and we made sure that engineering allocated those funds to those certain areas because we wanted to be sure that those were going to get taken care of, even outside of the pot of money that he had allocated. So it's so that you can make sure that each of the areas that y'all had wanted to be touched is going to be touched, and we've identified those areas. That's the only thing we're saying. There's no area more important than the other, I can assure you.
And so that was not what I was saying. I was not saying that there's one area more important than another, because I'm sure we equally, we all agree that all of Augusta is important. Yes. However, there are facilities, in fact, that are in major needs. And what I heard Mr. Latson say is that we don't have an exact estimate as to how much is going to cost to do renovations to those parks. Did I mishear that?
What we've done, and earlier, we did an inventory, and this inventory was done, I don't know if we recall, I think there was a retreat probably about probably 2 years ago. And we did an inventory on how much it would cost each one of these parks to maintain. And so that's even an item or a factor that's going to be included in this final analysis on utilized and underutilized parks. But anything, the way how this would work, anything that's really is in real need of repair, those are things that we would address ASAP. We just finally got the on-call contractors and everything on board. We have work orders out there that we're starting. Matter of fact, the cameras being put out is one of the work orders for the on-call contractors. We're in the process of getting the on-call special need engineers and testing company. That's in the procurement process, and so shortly that'll be out there. So, and like I said, we've done an inventory and seen and put a cost to those things. So, would everything get done at one time? No. Some of these things would actually have to be phased, because your SPLOST is actually a collection process over 5 years. So once this thing is done, we will get in there and actually start looking at, okay, these are the utilized parks, so this is how, this project should be phased. And the underutilized park, we probably gonna have to have a serious talk. I mean, sit down with the body, the administration, on, what's the next action. I mean, what do we want to do here? I mean, do we want to do some improvements, or do we want to? How do we? I've heard people say divest. I mean, so I think that would be kind of the major issue when we start looking at that. When we say, hey, these parks are underutilized. I mean, I think that's going, to me, I think that would be the next discussion on the ones that are being, that are considered utilized. Put those funds to it and actually start doing the maintenance or doing any new improvements to it. I'm not sure if that helped or not. I probably kind of rambled on a little bit there.
It did, it did help. I'm gonna let go so my colleagues that are in the queue can get called. It's just that, again, as we're saying, we're looking at all of Augusta, but then one community park gets named out. It's still naming out that particular park. And there's other parks that are named out as well. I need to ensure that a certain amount, whatever that amount of money that needs to go to the parks that are going to remain in District 2, they get the renovations that they need. I don't want it to be a matter of, oh, but that was for all of the parks, because I need these parks to be fixed. So I don't know how we do that, minus just naming out. I believe that it's going to be $5 million to fix everything that needs to be done at Carrie Mays, or $10 million to fix everything that needs to be done at Carrie Mays, or Bernie Ward. I know that there's already some money that's allocated to Bernie Ward, but I need it named out to be very clear that I want those parks fixed and operational the way they should be, and not closed 1 to 2 times every other week because of flooding. I want them fixed. So whatever that looks like, that's what I need to happen.
And the Carrie Mays, just to bring you up to date on that, that's something that we're constantly, that we're working on right now, as far as investigating where the flooding is coming from, why is it being, why it's wet in certain areas. We actually have, and we're actually going out on a limb. We're not procured to do it, but we actually got a specialized company to come in and do that, and ISM is doing that. So we should have something on that probably within the next month or two, and at that point we'll come up with some I guess what the problem is, and then come up with a solution. And like I said, that we have those on-call contractors on, which are there to fix those once we figure out what the problem is.
Okay, so would $5 million fix it?
I'm sure $5 million. You mean the water problem?
The water problem and other things that need to be fixed.
Well, it depends on what the scope is. If the scope is just fixing the water problem, I think $5 million is way more than enough. But if we're talking about replacing the whole gym, then $5 million won't be enough. So it depends on what the scope is. And in situations like that as well, if you have a project, and let's just say the project is $10 million, $12, $13 million. You don't have $12 or $13 million, but you have $5 or $6 million. At that point, you can, and that's why I'd say a capital improvement plan, CIP, is very important. You plan it in such a way that you phase it. And by the time you get your collection and everything, and you start construction, then you move into the next SPLOST, and then you can get the remaining of those funds on there. Not trying to bring in engineering, but we've done several projects like that in engineering where some of these projects are probably, it probably took 15 years, but you only started off with $500,000. But it was planned that East Augusta is an example. It's about 8 or 9 different phases, but it was planned that way. You only started off with $500,000. Well, it was going to cost $35 million to do everything. Well, people wanted to see things done, so you phase it. We started the first phase probably almost immediately, and people started seeing work done. But of course, we communicated to the constituents, and I think I was down there probably at least once a month, just giving updates for years. And they knew what was coming. They know what phase they were in. So I think that's a big part of it is probably communication and communicating to the public that, hey, it's not gonna happen today or tomorrow, but here's when this is gonna happen. And I mean, when you do that, at least with my experience, people seem to be more acceptable of what you're saying and what you're presenting.
Thank you. Thank you, Administrator Allen, Mr. Latson. Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I yield.
Commissioner Pulliam, can we also, I can ask Mr. Latson. Mr. Latson, can you give an update on the scrubbing of the previous SPLOST funds? I know you've been working with Ms. Williams, looking at projects that were outstanding.
Yeah, I didn't bring that data with me. I can probably come off the top of my head. I probably can give you updates. You mean from previous SPLOST?
Yes.
When we looked at, one of the things we looked at when we started doing some work with the department is we didn't just look at SPLOST 8. I know we were brought on just to do SPLOST 8, but we really had to go back and look at, okay, what do you have left in SPLOST 7, SPLOST 6, I mean, even SPLOST 5. And we cross-reference project with SPLOST 8 and see how they connect. And I want to say, and I probably need to get some updated info, but we put a spreadsheet together and cross-reference the project, and we do have some funds left in SPLOST 6 and SPLOST 7 on projects that are currently going on. Some of those funds will probably be used on what we consider SPLOST 8 projects. And I want to say most of our SPLOST 8 projects which we are managing, the SPLOST 8 projects, will be bid for construction by the end of this year and first and second quarter of next year. So at that point, when we bid the project, you get an actual cost on what it's going to be to do those projects. And so we probably be pulling from that SPLOST 6 and SPLOST 7 to add to SPLOST 8 funding to complete the construction of it. So I hope that helps. I don't have the notes on that with me, but so I hope that helps.
So I guess we're trying to recapture all of those respective funds from previous SPLOST to make sure that we utilize those funds to close out some of these current SPLOST projects on SPLOST 8, as well as could go possibly to some of the things that you're speaking of, Commissioner Pulliam.
Thank you, Commissioner Pulliam. Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem Wayne Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, Madam Administrator, or this might fall under the attorney. On this SPLOST 9 package, what we need to do is implement a policy or ordinance or whatever it's called, is if whatever we ask for, besides the infrastructure side of it, if we don't build it within 10 years, we give it back to the taxpayers as far as a reduction in their millage. Because just like what A.B. Lansing was just talking about, he's pulling stuff off SPLOST 6, SPLOST 7. SPLOST 6 naturally further than 10 years old. And this is what's disappointing to the citizens is we put stuff on, and fortunately the administrator had a foresight to see whatever we put on this SPLOST here is that it's going to be enough money to finish the project. We're not going to piecemeal it anymore, which is a great idea. So I guess this would be for the attorney or the administrator. How do we implement some kind of policy like that?
Mr. Guilfoyle, you're not going to be able to put it into the ballot question, so to speak, that this is what's going to happen. What you would end up doing is that after that 5-year period or 6-year period of time, if there's inadequate funds to do the project, then you would be able to declare the project infeasible. And then it would go back to the voters as to what to do with those funds. Sometimes what we have done in the past is reduce the scope of a project and then use those funds to do other projects within that category. But I think putting it into your intergovernmental tax agreement would probably run afoul of the law. and you certainly can't put it in the ballot, but those are your two options, is reduce the scope, and then use other projects, or alternatively, the other option is declare it infeasible. Inflation has gotten us, or whatever it may be, and we can't do the project for this amount of money. At that juncture, the body votes as an infeasible, and then the body puts it to the voters, a question of, and the body makes the decision how to do it, either reduce general obligation debt, reduce property taxes, or a combination of those. But you put it back to the voters to be sure they approve what's going to be done with those funds.
Okay. Madam Administrator, as far as this requested adjustments, this lock and dam, reducing it by $1.74 million, I don't know who made this suggestion, so I just think that was one of the things that, it's not my district, it's all of Augusta, but lock and dam back in the day had a lot of life to it. A lot of people utilized that. We had lock and ham jam, we had the air show, and a lot of people utilized lock and dam for fishing, did quality of life stuff. Now what we're seeing, the people actually that had boats carried the boats up the river, and now it's done run afoul, and I think the former Parks and Rec director has seen it, and then with the storm coming through, it just totally devastated that area. It's a lot of acreage that we could use by putting up pavilions, redoing the bathrooms, putting up the fish cleaning stations, and redoing the boat dock and the ramp. And you'll find out that people will be using it and be appreciative of it. Now that the state gave us, the lock and dam, it's not going anywhere, fortunately. So I would, as far as this requested just amendment, I can't fathom it, because actually you started off with $1 billion, reduced it down to 470, and then reduced down to 407 to keep it under that 6-year window. This carries us back up to a 7-year window here, and everybody behind this dais won't have the opportunity the next time to put a SPLOST package together. So it's going to be all new, basically all new people that's going to be put in the next SPLOST. So if there's consensus on this floor to adopt this, great. I'm not in favor of it, so I don't know if there's consensus.
Thank you, Commissioner Guilfoyle. Chair recognizes Commissioner Francine Scott from the ninth.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, and thank you, Administrator Allen, for the hard work you and your team are doing, and we're going back and forth. And it was some of the same thing that Mayor Pro Tem Guilford was talking about. But I just wanted to say, when we make a list or have a list of what we want to do, I think it's imperative that whatever is on the list, we're going to be able to make sure we get it done. And not have to wait 10 years to come back for something or ask for additional money, what we need to do. So we need to take a serious look at what we're doing, and some of the things that we know we cannot get done, we probably don't need to have it on this list. We just have to make a hard decision on what we need to do and how we need to do it. And it's upon this body should be able to make a decision and not lean so heavily on our administrator. She could bring us the information, but it's going to be us to take a hard look of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and not say we'll put X amount of dollars in a project and know we cannot complete that project. So thank you very much, and good job. We just got to make some hard decisions, and everybody not going to like what we're going to do, but we just have to come together and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Johnson, I see you in the queue, but I have a question for you. I'm going to get Natasha to put the plan up for May Park, and AB, ISM, I need you to come up. I have a question regarding it. Commissioner Johnson, my question to you is this request for May Park for $5 million specifically. Can you address that? if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. It's the same thing that Commissioner Pulliam is saying, and that's what I was going to say when I got into the queue, is that we all have things in our districts that we want to accomplish, and even with Commissioner Guilfoyle, the additional money for the lock and dam, I can support that completely. You know, he mentioned he didn't know where the numbers came out. I just kind of threw some numbers out to help everybody get to a good place today. But certainly, if we want to add the money for Carrie Mays and the lock and dam into this SPLOST, I support it 100%, because I think that, again, I always say that we missed the mark on quality of life. But May Park hasn't had, May Park is a heavily utilized park in East Augusta. As you can see, is right on the entry, is on the Gordon Highway entry, Walton Way entry from Augusta to South Carolina. And this park is used by rec teams and dance groups and pickleball teams and everything in between. And there's been grant money allocated for the grounds, but the facility itself is still in disrepair. And that's the same story for many other parks. You know, I just took a shot in the dark and said we want to allocate a specific amount for a new gym, because I know we have been talking about that for quite some time at May Park collectively as a body. And so that's what that request is for. But I want to also just say again that I completely support the request for additional funds at the Lock and Dam, Carrie Mays, because they're needed as well, right? So those are some pretty heavily used areas in Richmond County.
Thank you. AB, and Commissioner Johnson, I think it's correct. Most of this money is primarily for the grounds and benches, and I think the governor granted the money for access to Magnolia Cemetery. Right. And your Parks and Rec ask of a little over $21 million, is there any money allocated specifically, as Commissioner Pulliam said, the May Park, or is it primarily just the funds that the governor granted a couple of years ago?
It's primarily those funds, and I think there's some matching funds involved in it as well. That's been identified. Okay,
but nothing to upgrade the gym or any of that, as Commissioner Johnson has mentioned?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Noted. All right, colleagues, I don't see anyone else in the queue. And anybody else want to add any additional context regarding this ask today and where we move forward? Commissioner Clark, I see you in, sir. You have the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Johnson. Ms. Allen, team, appreciate you all for the work. I echo 100% what the commissioner from the 9th is saying. We just got decisions to make on this. AB, have you all completed the full assessment of the utilization of the parks?
We're working on that. We should be done around about mid-September.
Yeah, so of course that puts us in a situation because we have to have this completed by the 18th of August to really determine what's next steps. And kind of echoing what everybody's kind of saying, I think all of us have the responsibility of being the responsible financial stewards of these dollars and allocating them towards viable options as opposed to kind of pie in the sky or placeholders. I think all of us would like to see some level of improvement in that regard. My district specifically, one area of my district is looking for a new community center. I'm with it, but not to the detriment of us having other facilities that have not received any funding, that have not received any improvement, and we're carrying an inventory of parks that we really need to make some decisions on offloading. So I think in this regard, it's not necessarily to say we won't do anything, but I think we need to be very, very pointed with whatever we're going to assign the dollars towards. Let's assign them towards where we need them, but we don't need to spread that too thin, right? We need some clarity and understanding because each of us is going to have to speak to our constituents about what we're doing and why we made the decisions to do it. I know many counties and municipalities surrounding us, they don't go to the level of detailing out each and every one. They assign a certain pool of money to each department and they say, okay, this is the money that we're looking to allocate towards you all. Give us what those projects will be detailed instead of us going into the weeds with it. Because I think that's where we're kind of muddying some of this because we're getting way too far into what we should be looking for the staff to give us. And I get it, we represent our departments, and we're fighting for what we need to fight for our districts, but we're also we're blurring the lines, in my opinion. I think what we need really is we need to get a sound plan so that our public knows that there is a defined ROI with these dollars. The fact that we still have dollars allocated to projects from SPLOST 2 and 3, like, come on, y'all. What are we doing? And when do we get a readout of showing all of that so that we can go ahead and get started? Because if we keep kicking this can down, decisions that were made previous to this commission or otherwise are going to keep kicking us in the butt. So let's get to the point of really determining how the heck do we clean this up, and how do we get to a better place of determining what is what so that we can make the decisions. Because right now, we can go round and round with this for many more hours. And we just got to get to the point of making the decision of what we're going to do. I'm with, the fact that we need to improve our infrastructure. I'm with the fact that we need to establish certain things and amenities that the public's talking about, but I'm not with it to the detriment of putting us further in a hole. And to me, it seems like we keep putting ourselves further in a hole by inserting these things that we really shouldn't even be putting in there. The fact that we're still trying to put a square peg in a circle, adding NGOs and all this kind of stuff, listen, that's not what these dollars are for. And the fact that we keep putting ourselves in this place of trying to fit that in makes us look irresponsible in how this is being conducted. So I like to see all of us, and I challenge all of us to get to a better place of just let's make it make sense. Let's make sure that it's responsible fiscally, and let's make sure also that we're not continuing to blur these lines. Ms. Allen and Interim Director Schreier, I'd like to see if we could get a readout of all the historic projects that haven't been completed with the dollars that have been allocated towards them. We need to have that understanding. Because right now, I'm blind. I promise you I am. And now, that part of that is because I just started in January. But the other part is, I don't think we've had a readout to know where we do have funds still previously allocated.
It's in our email.
So we provided a list of updated projects for each of the respective SPLOST that shows what is remaining in each of those SPLOST.
Okay, so we have received that?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
So that's my mistake then on that. I'll look further into that. But I think we need to really start looking at that because to your point and to General Counsel's statement, we got to make the decisions. We need to start taking this to the voters. They voted to approve it, but SPLOST 2, come on now. This is too far back. This is way too far back. So I like to see us really dig into what we need to clean up as far as, and also making these decisions to kind of move this. Because I'm telling you, we have some bigger things that we have to address also with the budget that we just can no longer avoid. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 2nd, Commissioner Pulliam.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I echo some of the same sentiments that everyone has said, honestly, on this dais. I do want to, since we're asking for just transparency and 100% clarity, going back to my previous comments, I do want a certain amount of this money, and I threw $5 million out there. I'm understanding that $5 million may at least fix the flooding issue.
I think as far as with the flooding issue, I think $5 million would probably be more than enough to fix the issue out there with the flooding.
Okay, so I definitely want something that specifically says that $5 million, that's a starting point, will go to Carrie Mays because I know that there's an ongoing flooding issue. And because other parks are listed, I get the muddying the water, I understand all that, but it's already done. And so I have to make sure that I, again, am speaking up for the parks that I represent in my district. And so by parks, I mean the people that I represent in my district. So I want to make sure that that flooding issue is at least taken care of. And if there's any additional funding that if there's leftovers that we have, or if there's other money, we can start those conversations about other projects that actually need to happen. But that flooding has to stop.
And I would say something too, Commissioner Pulliam. I don't know if you want to wait till after 2026 to do that, because we won't start getting these funds until at the end of 2026. I think that problem that you're having at Carrie J. Mays, we need to address that before then.
Okay.
So we need to identify where we can get funding to address that before then.
Okay, and so that's
Being
fine.
addressed right-
Yeah,
that's-
we can
that's being
definitely
addressed
do
right now.
that, but we do know that by the time this SPLOST comes available, there's still going to be renovation projects
yes,
that need to
ma'am.
be
Yes,
done.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So we can fix the flooding. I'm not going to sit here and say I want it to flood until then, but we know that that is one of the many problems that is going on. So I still want $5 million that's dedicated to that park if we are listing out parks.
Commissioner Pulliam, you still have the floor.
I yield, but I don't know if the attorney is going to say something directed towards me or not.
Ms. Pulliam, I actually was. What I would ask that you would say is just say, while flooding would be the issue potentially that you want to address, it would be better to say Carrie May Park improvements.
Okay.
Because addressing that, because when we put out materials that say, this is what we're going to do.
Yes, sir.
And let's say the flooding was $3 million to fix, well, then we have $2 million left over that wasn't for flooding purposes. So I think improvements is a better choice of words.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Attorney Plunkett. Mayor Johnson, if I could respond to that. So
Yes, ma'am, you got the floor. Go ahead.
thank you so much, sir. So Carrie May's improvements, $5 billion be dedicated to that. That's my request. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Pulliam. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question about the UGA Board of Regents, $5 million.
Yes, sir.
Is that entity a government entity, or is that a non-government entity?
Commissioner, that is a government entity, and that's the ask that the Augusta University and the Medical College had as part of Augusta's investment in a new research and education building on its campus.
Attorney Plunkett, is that correct?
I consider it a state organization, yes, sir.
You consider it a state organization, or is it a state organization?
In my opinion, it is a state organization. I don't just clear all things, but for our purposes, it's a state organization. So, Mr. Johnson, as an attorney, we typically couch things as my opinion, okay? But for this conversation,
Well, in
it's
my opinion, NGOs can be in this package. So I'm not saying that's what I'm advocating for, but I'm just talking to you. Is it a
to make it
state
simpler,
agency?
it's a state organization.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Plunkett, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Johnson. All right, don't see nobody else in the queue. It is now lunchtime. What we're gonna
Can
do?
I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Is there a
ma'am.
consensus to add these items so that we'll know how to proceed? Because today we have it on the agenda to approve the SPLOST 9 list that has been presented, which was whatever comes from this meeting. It seems that we don't have the final list as of yet, based on the commentary. However, I needed to know if we needed to add these. Is there a consensus to add these?
Well, we don't have a clerk. Ms. McFarley, could we, how could we gain a consensus by show of hands? Because it needs to be recorded some way. How can we do that? She could, all right, take notes. So, Madam Administrator is calling for a consensus to add these items. Ms. McFarley in the clerk's office is gonna take a show of hands. So, show of hands for those that want to add these items to the SPLOST 9 package. Show of hands. To add these items. I see Commissioner Johnson, I see Commissioner Pulliam, I see Commissioner Lewis, and Commissioner Scott. All right, that is 4. Unfortunately, that does not grant us enough votes to move it forward. Okay?
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, Madam Administrator, I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. This is a question just generally to my colleagues is which projects do we have consensus moving forward on, knowing that we have to potentially get this thing passed today at our commission meeting? And I mean,
Yeah,
this is.
I don't mind opening it up to this body. Is there any consensus to add any of these items, or are we going to take them in totality?
I mean, it's a simple, I would say this, Mr. Mayor, it is a list that encompasses the needs of multiple areas in our community. And I mean, if we don't want them, I would at least want to have a discussion as to why not. But if we have an opportunity to fund some of these critical projects that's on the screen, I would imagine that we should, have that conversation.
Sure. Well, that's Commissioner Scott's in the queue, Commissioner Johnson, so if you yield. All right, Commissioner Scott?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, I have a question. So if we don't include any of these listed, what are we voting on in the commission meeting today? This?
Yes, ma'am. So each of you should have a packet, and on that, I'm sorry, I didn't say this at the very beginning of the discussion. And it identifies, and the administrator, the last one that we discussed, the 407,574 would actually be what is approved as the list of projects.
Follow-up question, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Continue, Commissioner Scott. You have the floor.
So if there's some items on this list that we don't agree with, on the floor, do we ask for it to be taken off, or do we do that now? Or if we have questions about?
Yeah, you could do that now, yes, ma'am, and if there's a consensus to remove it.
And Administrator Allen, while you're there, please remind this body of our timeline as to when these items need to be presented so that they can make the November ballot.
Yes, sir. It has to be to the Board of Elections by August, the A's got me, by August 18th for it to go before their board to put it on the referendum, which means we also have to get the document signed from our neighboring counties, Blythe, the neighboring county cities, Hephzibah and Blythe. We have to make sure that we get that approved by this governing body so that signature can be made for the intergovernmental agreements as well. So we first have to approve the list, then and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Plunkett, then we have to get the intergovernmental agreement authority to get those signed. We have been in contact with both of those counties, and they're ready because they need to go ahead and be able to proceed with their signatures as well and go to their governing body so that they can approve what we've submitted.
All right, and so colleagues, in looking at the calendar, today's the 5th. We, potentially, it's committee meeting next Tuesday on the 12th. So it certainly gives us at least, at the most another week without having to call a special call to consider these items or any other changes. So, but Madam, from the 9th, you still have the floor.
Madam Administrator, I'm not sure what page it is. It's on recreation.
Yes, ma'am.
And it says Riverwalk and Boathouse reconstruction, and I believe that's $8 million. I'm not sure. It's, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Now, tell me about, could somebody tell me some clarity on this?
That was one of the items that was previously discussed at one of our other meetings to add on to the list. It was to do some upgrades to the Riverwalk as well as the boathouse and to bring all of those up to par. I think the mayor presented that information to the group.
Yeah, I've always stated that Edwin M. McIntyre Riverwalk does not, in my opinion, today meet the vision that he established for it many years ago, and that certainly needs some work to be done there. That is one of our first tourist destinations when people visit Augusta, and its infrastructure needs some desperately needed improvements. And I think as a body we would agree that, as we can continue to develop downtown on the river, making sure that Riverwalk truly reflects the vision and of former Mayor McIntyre will greatly benefit this community.
One follow-up question, Mr. Mayor. So this list that we have right here is what we are trying to get approved. So the,
Yes, ma'am. So
To
what
put-
what the voters will actually see is the first page. Well, it'd be just the categories and what's gonna be allocated for the respective categories. Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Tina Slindak. You have the floor.
Hi, thanks. So we've just took a vote on this whole list here. I have, personally, the lock and dam, I don't want to see a reduction in that. That, it's horrible. You know, as long as I've lived in Augusta, I had never actually been until several months ago. And I know it was with the hurricane and everything. But it's just terrible out there. And I hate to see any money cut from that. I would also support the May Park for $5 million. But everything else on here, I will not. I don't know if there was any thought to adding those back in and see if those two could get added in, but that's.
They didn't give a consensus for any of these items. So are you,
Okay.
Commissioner Slindak, wanting to add one or?
I mean, I feel very strongly about not cutting lock and dam, and I do think May Park it needs a lot of work, and I'd be fine with those, but the rest of them I would not support.
Is there a consensus to do the May Park then, or?
Say May Park and the lock and down.
Yes.
Yeah, put them in there.
No, locking down is a reduction.
Story.
Well, we didn't, so
was a
let me make sure I
reduction.
explain. What was on the board now,
Okay.
it wasn't a consensus to do any of this.
Right.
So we
Okay.
never did reduce lock and dam. This is what was recommended. We didn't do that. But we also did not include the $5 million specifically for May Park. So by the governing body not giving consensus, this doesn't exist unless you want to pull something for
Okay.
consensus.
Okay, I'll hold off for
Okay.
right now then, thanks.
Welcome.
All right, Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem Wayne Guilfoyle.
Thank you, sir. I want to say I agree with my colleague, and lock and dam is actually in District 1. You know, it's not a matter of, I just know that we got to share the love throughout the whole community, basically. In May Park, as far as 723, there's $5 million in there already, ain't it? In the package?
It doesn't specifically state the amount for May Park other than what we have, the grant funding. However, nothing has changed with lock and dam. It's still a $3 million in there.
Right, okay. And I had asked for the city of Hetzibah, because the only place growth could happen is south of Richmond County. And I know that we ended up reducing it because you reduced the amount of the package itself.
Yes, sir.
So it's based off a percentage of the people, but,
Yes, sir.
okay. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Guilfoyle. I have a question for the attorney regarding the Laney Museum and Augusta Museum of History. Are those considered NGOs?
Yes, sir.
They are considered NGOs. Okay, that's all I had. All right, Commissioner Stacy Pulliam. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. So I'm going to speak on Fleming Park, and I know that conversation was being had when I walked in, but we currently don't have any indoor tennis facilities. Is that correct, Mr. Latson?
Are you referring to the county?
Yes. Do we have indoor tennis facilities?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we currently don't have any indoor tennis facilities. Tennis is a big thing. And okay, it may be pickleball, but the person that loves basketball could argue that basketball is a big thing, right? So I guess it depends upon who you're talking to, because then other people are going to argue that football is a big thing. So there are a myriad of sports that are big. But the fact still remains that we don't have any indoor tennis facilities, and tennis is still a very recognizable sport. And so with the ask, there are already renovations that are going on at Fleming Park that are in the budget. What is that amount that we currently, I know we had 2 million, it was like 2.6 or something like that, million.
Currently, in the budget right now is $2.7 million to do construction.
Okay, so it's about $2.7 million that's already there. Having this indoor facility would make it so that practices don't have to be canceled. When we do have tournaments that we could possibly have here, much as we have Peach Jam, because again, pickleball is not the only sport that is played, basketball is played as well. But we're not talking about basketball, we're talking about tennis. So when we have tournaments that are here that could attract more tournaments for tennis, which is much needed, because right now, everything is canceled as soon as it's raining. So we're not even looked at as a county for people to have those large tournaments because of weather. So I am going to request that Fleming Park still get that $6 million to get that indoor facility. Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner Pulliam. Would you like to have that in a vote of a consensus? Do you want us to,
Yes, sir.
all right.
Thank you.
The commissioner from the second has called for a consensus vote on the Fleming Park $6 million. Ms. McFarland, are you prepared? You ready? All right, by show of hands, the ask has been to keep the Fleming Park $6 million request as part of SPLOST 9. By show of hands, please show your hands. Let's see, one, that's Commissioner Stacy Pulliam, Commissioner Jordan Johnson, Commissioner Tony Lewis, Commissioner Francine Scott. That consensus fails. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first, Commissioner Jordan Johnson.
All right, I would like to suggest reducing the DDA's suggestion here back to its original recommendation of $750,000.
All right, if that's the case, I don't think there's a call for consensus on that. That's in the original package, is that correct? If that's there,
correct.
There's should be no additional vote for that.
That's correct.
That's right.
I want to also discuss briefly the South Augusta Water Park. I know a few weeks ago we discussed the previous SPLOST funding for a water park, and I just wanted to make sure before we go too deep in this is if that original funding was enough. I think it was $5 million that we allocated. Is that enough to get a request out to start building?
I think the initial intention of the $5 million was to actually partner with a private company. That $5 million was used to partner with a private company.
So would that be enough?
And until we, I guess, let me put it, until we start the talks of partnering with a company, and that company will determine whether that $5 million is enough.
Okay, and I don't want to put you in the middle of one side or the other. So I'm just going to ask the question you answered honestly. How would we? Well, I got to make sure I word it correctly. If we said we were going to spend $5 million for a South Augusta Water Park, and then the company that we talked to says, well, that's not enough. I mean, where would we find the other $2 million, or how many other $1 million that they need to do this? Or would that $5 million from the previous SPLOST be deemed infeasible, and then we recapture that money for something else? I guess my concern is, if we don't have enough money allocated for that project, then that $5 million that we allocated previously might just go to waste or be recaptured for something else. So I just want to make sure that if we don't add additional money here, that we're covered on the back end someplace else.
Mr. Johnson, I think you have two different questions, if I'm understanding. One is if you were to try to do some P3 project with this, would that be sufficient?
Mr. Attorney Plunkett, sir, you can't bring that sign in these chambers. Marshall, Mr. Marshall, you cannot. You're more than welcome, but you cannot bring that sign in these chambers, sir. We're not throwing you out, but the sign has to go. The sign has to go, and that's respect for these chambers. The sign cannot stay in these chambers.
Okay, what ordinance are you enforcing?
Is that a point of order?
This is a political matter. That sign is a political matter, and the sign is not appropriate for these conversations that we're having, Mr. Todd. You're more than welcome to say, but as you know, that sign can't be in here with these chambers.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Sir, state your point.
Thank you. This is for the attorney. Is there an ordinance or a policy that doesn't allow signs in the chambers?
This is a workshop.
The issue is that the chair can, under the rules of procedure, can declare what's decorum. And if he finds that this is being disruptive to the body, I think he would have the authority to have the sign removed.
Does this body deem that sign to be disruptive?
The chair does.
Well,
When these deliberate, Mr. Todd is more than welcome to stay. The sign needs to be removed from these chambers.
I wore a t-shirt in here, Mr. Mayor, without being disrupted, with the same on it.
Can are T-shirts for political endeavors allowed in these chambers? No. That is a political sign. And you're more than welcome to be here, sir. But out of respect for these chambers and this process, I ask that you at least remove the sign. You're more than welcome to stay. Thank you, Mr. Todd. Mr. Todd, you're more than welcome. All right, Commissioner Johnson, you still have the floor, sir.
Well, I'm kind of distracted now. So, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that we're going to infringe on his right to express himself how he feels just because we don't agree with what his sign says. I'm sure if somebody had a sign in here that says, vote yes on the charter review amendments, nobody would say it was disturbing this body or anything of that nature. So that's pretty disturbing that we would remove a citizen from our chambers just because he's voicing his opinion via a sign. But anyhow, let's go back to the question that's at hand, the water park situation. So I believe our general counsel was speaking on that.
So, as I said, I think you're asking two different questions. One is whether or not the funding would be sufficient with the P3, and if it's not, the secondary question is, would we then be able to declare that those funds, infeasible? So you kind of have two different issues there. One is the funds can always go back and be determined to be infeasible. You could reduce the scope of the project and use those funds for something similar to a water park out there. Or you would have the opportunity to do, see if there's other inducements that you may be able to encourage in a P3 project. There could be tax abatement issues, there could be long-term land leases, there could be other types of inducements that you might be able to encourage a P3 partner to do the project, even though there's, I'm not going to say only like it's a small amount of money. If it's just the $5 million that you're putting there, there could be other inducements that would not necessarily be tied to SPLOST.
Okay. I'll come back to that one. Let's address the affordable housing, the $10 million for affordable housing. The original ask was $34 million, and so I don't understand why this body wouldn't want to invest in affordable housing in a time where affordable housing is critical. I'm also reminded that this body had extensive conversation about rooftops, the need for rooftops in our county. I think that this $10 million can get us rooftops. I don't understand why this body would not support supporting affordable housing needs within our community. So I would love to have a conversation about that one. I don't think that's something we can just take a show of hands and blow over. Like, affordable housing, in my opinion, is the biggest need in our county, with the cost of buying a house rapidly increasing every day And then in Richmond County, the digest remaining stagnant for the past decade or so. And so when we talk about growing Augusta, here's an opportunity. So I just want to open the floor for that conversation before we, take a show of hands or consensus if that's what we want to do.
All right, Commissioner Pulliam, I see you in the queue. Are you interested in addressing the affordable housing issue that the Commissioner from the first has brought before this body?
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. How did you know?
I kind of figured it.
Yeah.
Come on, madam, you have the floor.
Because I'm always advocating for affordable housing. I did watch the budget session on last night, and I believe it was Mr. Jones that spoke up on watching a national syndicated, I don't know which, was it C-SPAN? It was C-SPAN, okay, I was gonna say CNN, but it was C-SPAN, and I consistently have been talking about affordable housing, attainable housing, because affordable sometimes is a bad word for whatever reason. We all are looking for affordable things. However, affordable, attainable housing, we are in a crisis nationwide. And with federal cuts the way that they are, Mr. Jones brought up a very good point that people that are receiving Section 8 may be at risk of losing that. So when we're already looking at a current homeless issue, what are we going to do when that issue gets bigger? We talk about, and Administrator Allen, you so eloquently put it yesterday, about working towards having a capital improvement plan and how that's something that this body has talked about, although I'm going to be completely honest, it's not talked about enough. But I love that you actually stated that last night in the budget meeting. So as we're talking about a capital improvement plan and we're looking at our current scope as far as housing is concerned, the shortage of housing already exists. But now you're talking about pulling back on HUD programs. You're talking about, well, all the defunding that is happening. And if you go and you actually look at the defunding that is taking place, we already can't get housing. So where are we going to get it at now? People are already at risk. So those conversations definitely need to be had, because it's going to fall on local municipalities when we don't have the money in place. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Pulliam, and I agree. Even today, we have a waiting list that exceeds 10,000 folks that are looking for a place to live right here in Augusta, Richmond County alone. It's a problem that not only Augusta is faced with, but it's a challenge across our country. And you're right. Unfortunately, the headwaters towards making anything better are not in our favor. I believe we should do as best we can, but just keep in mind we only have a limited amount of resources in our coffers to help with that. And but I'm fine with keeping the conversation open. Commissioner Johnson, I see you in the queue, sir. Commissioner Pulliam, if you want, I'll continue to yield back to you. I'll give you the floor, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to say this, Commissioner Johnson, then I
yield.
can. Thank
I
you.
yield.
Thank
It's a
you.
no-brainer.
Both of you have yielded. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, and what you said, thank you so much, Mayor Johnson, for supporting what I said. I would like to say, your last statement regarding we only have a limited amount of funds, if there are more and more people that become homeless, we're going to have a bigger problem on our hand. So we either address it now, we either are proactive, or we're going to definitely be reactive, because there is going to be a problem nationwide. Even at the last conference we went to, the NACO conference, that was heavily spoken about. So this is not just an Augusta issue. This is going to be nationwide, and we need to be proactive as a county as to how we're going to address what is already an issue, and now it's going to be an even bigger issue. And so it's going to take public-private partnerships, not just the government, but the government is going to have to play its part the same way we play our parts with what was it, Georgia Regents? Mm-hmm. Is that what was on there, Georgia Regents? The same way we played our part in doing partnerships with Augusta Technical College, the same way we've done our part in giving money to all of these other entities. We're going to have to look at housing the same way. Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
You're quite welcome, Commissioner Pulliam. Commissioner Johnson?
I yield to Commissioner Turnley.
All right, Commissioner Turnley, the commissioner from the first has yielded to you, madam. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, and I'm not sure if it's to the administrator or maybe even to the body, at this point, we've got to figure out what we do agree on so we can move this forward. So I need someone to correct me. It looks like we pretty much have a consensus on everything except the Laney Walker Museum, the Augusta Museum, send the Downtown Development Authority back to its original ask of $750, delete the South Augusta Water Park, and delete the Fleming Park. Am I pretty much on target? Is that something that we can agree on as a body? Because we do have to move on. I mean, this thing does have an expiration date.
Well, while I would agree with you, Commissioner Turnley, that's the reason I asked our general counsel regarding the Laney Museum and the Augusta Museum, and I was hoping that they were not NGOs and that they do a great job in not only telling the story of Augusta, but promoting tourism and economic investments in our community. And certainly you want to help so that we could tell the story of Augusta. But unfortunately, if they're NGOs, I don't think NGOs qualify based on the opinion that we have from Attorney Plunkett.
And that was my reason for excluding them from the list. That was my understanding as well. Am I correct, Attorney Plunkett, that they are NGOs, so that makes them, not able to participate in SPLOST?
Ms. Turnley, as a direct, to just provide SPLOST funding to those, I think is impermissible.
Okay, then that answers my question. Thank you. But that's all right. And what can we agree on so that we can move forward to the next phase? Because there's still other things that we've got to decide on. Am I correct, Administrator Allen, that other than this, there still are other things that have to be done?
Yes, ma'am. So if they went with, it seems like there's a consensus for unless there are any changes, the $407,574 that you already have identified these projects and priorities.
That's the original amount. There appears to be a consensus in that. However, colleagues, the 12th, next Tuesday, we have the ability to, if you guys want another session, it gives us a chance. You got 1 week from today to fish or cut bait. If there's anything that we want to reconsider, but this list has to be to the Board of Elections by the 18th for them to consider. So you have a week. So if there's anything, we need to discuss or a huddle on, keep in mind, we have 1 week. 1 week to make any changes from the request of $407,574,000 that have already been previously pretty much agreed upon. Okay. All right. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the first, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm hearing the discussion. I understand we have to move forward. And I've heard multiple times that nonprofits, NGOs, are not permissible. They're not eligible, which I want us to clarify that. Nonprofits can be added into a SPLOST package. They have been added in the SPLOST package before, and it wasn't because we found a loophole to get it done. They were added because it's permissible, and that's not Jordan Johnson. That's state code, state law that says that they can be, and our general counsel knows how that can happen. I know that in SPLOST 6, the Lady Museum was added into SPLOST for capital projects. That's what the permissible activity is. It can be a capital project, and that's how they were able to expand and do other things. And the Augusta Museum also received SPLOST dollars in SPLOST 8, if I'm not mistaken, for HVAC and other renovations at that facility. And so for us to say on 2 different occasions that they don't belong here and that they're not permitted or it's not legal or whatever the case, I think that we should clarify exactly what that means instead of having a blanketed statement put out there like that. I don't mind dropping the Laney Museum or the Augusta Museum, from this list, but I do know that other counties and other states and other cities here in Georgia particularly have funded their museums of Black history, have funded their local museums with SPLOST dollars. And so I don't understand where we get all of a sudden, 10 years later, oh, that's not permissible. It is permissible. There's a way to do it, right? Grant matches, things of that nature. But to say that it cannot be done or it's not permitted, I'm willing to die on the vine to say that it can be, because that's what state statute says, right? So I'll leave that there. I don't want to get into a fight with general counsel about nonprofits being included in the SPLOST package. If we want to discuss it, I don't mind. But if this body doesn't want to support it, then that's fine too. But I do want to go back to this affordable housing piece. I'm going to call for consensus for that, because I don't understand for the life of me why Augusta, Richmond County would not support that. I just don't understand why we wouldn't support that. The money that we put in the American Rescue Plan for affordable housing, we pulled it back to offset the general fund. And we said that once whatever happened, they were going to get their money back. The money still ain't been back yet. And so my biggest concern here is that we have a large need in affordable housing, and we keep proving time and again that it's not a priority to this commission. So that's my take on it, Mr. Mayor. And we can go different ways on it, but I want us to get out there and tell the community why we don't support affordable housing in the city of Augusta.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Johnson. Ms. McFarland, Commissioner Johnson's asked for a call for consensus on the affordable housing request of $10 million. I'm going to ask by show of hands for those that support putting $10 million into the SPLOST 9 package for affordable housing by show of hands. All right, I see Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Pulliam, Commissioner Turnley, Commissioner Lewis, Commissioner Scott. That is 5 votes.
You don't support it, Mr. Mayor?
That is 5 votes. That fails. Commissioner Scott, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I think before we went to this vote, I think we said that we probably need to do some more discussion on this. I really think we need to do some more discussion on this list if we're going to add some or take something off, because this is critical. If we're going to look and do for all of Augusta's, we need to make sure we're doing for all of Augusta. Thank you, and I think we really need to have another conversation before we go out and say, this is what we're gonna do. Because right now, if we vote on this and we bring it to the floor, I will not be voting on it, and I will tell my constituents this is something that we do not need to do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Johnson, you're still in the queue, sir.
I'm in, but I can think of something else to say, but I won't.
Yes, sir. All right, Madam Administrator, there's no other colleagues in the queue. Remind us of the timeline, please.
So Ms. Stevens so eloquently just reminded me that we still have to give time for Blythe and Hetzler to meet to approve it. So we really, really need to try to get it approved. And, I hear Commissioner Scott, we really have to get it approved by the 5th, today, if at all possible, unless y'all have to call a special call meeting to get it done. But we have to give them time for them to pull their governing body together to approve it as well.
Madam, we're probably going to call a special call because I just sense we still have work to do. And that's just being honest. All right.
So is there a consensus? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, is there a consensus for another work session?
I think there should be a consensus for another work session. Is there any objection? Yeah. Madam, I'm going to ask you to tentatively schedule a work session for the 12th, unless this body's able to work.
Well, yeah, that's too late for that. Isn't it too late for that? Yeah, we'll have to try to figure something out, because it'll be a little too late for Blythe and Hetzler, but we'll contact them to see when is the deadline for them to have it back.
All right, please. All right. Commissioner Turnley.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just have one question. I guess this is to the city administrator, make sure I understand. We're going to go back and decide on these items. No one is going to add additional items to this list.
If that's the case.
Because, theoretically, that could happen.
It could, yes, ma'am. It depends on if that's the consensus of the body not to add.
Hopefully we can get a consensus that it's hard enough as it is without adding something else, and we're backed up. Our toe is on the line. So I don't know if I can get a consensus from my colleagues that this is the working list that we're going to deal with. If we can get a show of hands of that, if that's appropriate, Mr. Mayor.
All right, there's been a call of consensus. You mean the working list of the items that are already presented for us for today?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Voted not to go with this.
yeah. It's already been not consented to move forward. Commissioner Pulliam from the second.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I do want to make sure that in the update, because I didn't call for consensus for the $5 million to be named for Carrie J. Mays. So can I do that, Neil?
Yeah, so.
Or actually, out of the 20 million, for 5 million to be named
Right.
for Carrie Mays?
So in the existing SPLOST ask for Parks and Rec, it's already designated $21,260,000 for Parks and Rec. Commissioner from the second is requesting that out of that allocation, $5 million be allocated directly to Carrie J. Mays. That's what the commissioner from the second is asking. Ms. McFarley? We're ready by show of hands asking for $5 million out of the $21,260,000 be allocated directly to Carrie J. Mays by show of hands. So there is Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Pulliam, Commissioner Turnley, Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Lewis.
It's already in the package. It's not new money. It's not new money.
And that's what I wanted to say. It's not new money. Like, we know, if you haven't visited Carrie J. Mays, please go visit it,
Oh, and by the way,
since we're already visiting places.
Mr. Mayor, Carrie J. Mays was built in 1995, Commissioner Pulliam, and the gym was built in 2004.
It was built in 1995?
Yes, sir.
When was May Park built?
I'd have to get that information, but somebody sent me that.
Okay, all right. I know it's been there. Okay, all right. Commissioner Pulliam, you still in the queue, madam. Commissioner Johnson, you have the floor.
I want to reconsider that with the additional understanding that that money is already allocated and that is not new money, but it's a request to earmark existing allocations for Carrie Mays.
My only question, I don't have a question or problem with it. We got to get ISM to see what other parks, because you don't want to be taking away projects that are allocated to other parks. That's my only concern with it.
Well, according to what they said earlier, that pool is not designated for one specific park. It just basically is designated for park renovations and upgrades. So, I mean, it's not designated for one specific park. Now, we could take it from the 10 million for the new park and community center for West Augusta and split that in half if the commissioner from the second and fifth would agree to that. But I think it'd probably be easiest or probably cleaner to just earmark what's already allocated in that 20+ million for Carrie Mays.
I think this body would probably be better to kind of understand what the allocations. Mr. Latson, with that $21,260,000, I ask you, do you have any specific breakdowns as to how those dollars are allocated currently? What your ask is for those dollars, and how did you derive at that number?
It was based on, well, I think the initial ask was actually higher than what's being approved. So those numbers are based on some of our from the early inventory and just doing assessments of the existing parks. So in essence, in a nutshell, that's where those initial numbers came from. And of course, you know, going through the process here, you know, that those numbers are would definitely go down. I think it probably went down in all the areas, but they will go towards, like I said, maintenance, doing some small capital improvement projects out there. Let's just say if a park or a gym needs painting, or the air conditioning needs to be changed out, or what have you, or the floors need to be redone, those dollars are allocated to activities such as that.
Turner Plunkett, remind us, can maintenance be used as part of SPLOST 9? Is that permissible?
No, sir. You can have certain issues that have maybe deferred maintenance to a level that it becomes rehabilitation or renovation, but ongoing maintenance is not appropriate.
I stand correct, I meant renovation.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 5th, Commissioner Clark.
All right, so for the record, SPLOST 9 requested adjustments. We did not have consensus for any of those items, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm hearing conflicting, so correct. All right, so when we voted for consensus, we did it in the totality of the list of recommendations, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Allen?
There's not consensus to move forward with the entire list. We took some items and did them individually. We were not able to grant consensus on any of the items.
Okay, yeah, and so this is the thing about it, because I already know I'll look later on and see this communicated in various ways. But let's clear up something. Augusta has, Ms. Allen, can you justify or clarify what are our affordable housing options that we have in place right now?
So currently, we have Housing and Community Development
Yes,
that
ma'am.
works and receives HUD funds.
Right. And we also have, housing development, not housing development, housing authority as well that does
Yes, sir.
Section 8 funds as well.
Yeah, that's outside of the city government, but the Augusta Housing Authority is a separate arm.
Correct. And the statement was made that HUD will be making cuts. Sure, we've all heard those statements. We've all heard those announcements. We have zero understanding at this point of what the pointed number will be. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, we have nothing yet.
Right. So the 10 million, although I know some of the colleagues have made mention and tried to, publicly shame the other colleagues that were not in support of affordable housing, I believe our mission is clear for the county and for the city that we do have programs that are specifically slated in support of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the $10 million, do we have an idea of just throwing it out there, just $10 million, and use it how you use it and see if that helps bump this without an understanding pointedly of what dollars is going to be removed or otherwise, because we don't know what the federal government's going to do. They may not touch any of our funding. But at the end of the day, I think what we're trying to do with this SPLOST package, not to really kind of belabor this, because I thought that was a cheap statement to make to your colleagues. But I think the biggest thing is this. If we're going to assign SPLOST dollars to anything, let's assign it to something that we know we're really going to move forward with our constituents seeing a benefit from directly. Not saying they're not seeing a benefit from what HCD is doing or other efforts that we have, but let's make it pointed. We got one chance to really kind of make this package something that our constituents can see a positive return on investment. This kind of back and forth slinging and trying to shame people, I got it. Everybody has their approaches and ways of doing it, but it's adding more confusion to the narrative. The more we continue to go back and forth waffling like this, the more our public is the one who gets further divided in understanding what we're talking about. Let's stay with the clear understanding of what it is. We have our general counsel that's given us the legal standpoints of what we have or don't have. Got it. Everybody has their opinions on it. Debate that piece. We have our administrator and team who have been working overtime in providing us recommendations. But instead of us continuing to make this a back and forth pointing session, let's get to business and make this what we need to do. Because right now, I'm hearing directly from people who are confused as heck about what the heck is what. And we are the elected officials who really, unfortunately, some of us are contributing to that. So however that sticks, it sticks. But what I'm saying is, if we're going to assign dollars to anything, let's assign it to something that we know is going to be feasible, and let's not stay in the situation that we're in already from previous SPLOST, where we have dollars that we assign to something and never move forward with them or saw them come into full fruition. So if we're going to do this, and again, for the record, this SPLOST 9 requested adjustments. We could not gain consensus about assigning these to what the administrator has recommended. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so again, we're going on, and we can keep going on and on. Because I already know if we assign another work session, then there's going to be some more attempts to add to this. Folks, we don't have the time to do this. We either need to, put our big boy and big girl pants on and make the decisions, or we're going to keep, twiddling our thumbs to where we run out of time. We need to all agree upon what the parameters are, the left and right limits of what we can assign these funds towards and what we cannot. But just throwing, shots in the dark and hoping that it assists something, we need to make it tangible. And we need to make it something that everyone involved will see some benefits from. Our infrastructure is aged. We have not been maintaining it appropriately, but to just say Carrie Mays over May Park, over McDuffie Woods, over all the other ones, listen, we're going to put ourselves in a situation where everybody's going to be in an uproar. So ISM, Parks and Rec, we really need some clarity on understanding, because I think you said earlier, AB, that there were dollars that were already allocated towards repairs to address the flooding that Commissioner Pulliam brought up and other improvements, correct?
I mean, there are funds that are out there, but not specifically for
the fund.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But if we added more money to Carrie Mays, what does that do to McDuffie Woods? What does that do to May Park? What does that do to our other aging infrastructures that are out there as well that have just as many issues?
Yeah, and again, this is why we did what we did and put not specific projects.
Right.
Again, we're looking at utilized and underutilized park.
Yeah.
And I know we want to get that done quickly, but that takes time because that piece right there is just a time thing.
Right.
As we get the data, we're analyzing it.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And unfortunately, time's not on our side with this, right? We got a lot of work, not a lot of time. We got to get the administrator what she needs so we can move this thing forward. So we got to assign the dollars towards what we know specifically right now. And from the conversation that's up here, folks are looking specifically for understanding of where those dollars are going to go, as opposed to just saying, hey, here's 21, and we're just going to spread it out how we can.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, but I think you got to look at if you say specific projects, and you got 10 other projects that needs immediate attention,
right,
or it comes up, how do you pay for that?
Exactly. So, and that's what we're up against, right? Because if we move and shift money away from this one versus that one, then you're taking one away from the other. Bottom line. So if we say, hey, add $5 million to May Park, well, that's taking that $5 million from something else that you all have already allocated direction towards trying to make improvement to. Same thing with Carrie Mays, but the same issues still are in front of us. What do we do with these facilities towards improving them and not necessarily adding maintenance to them?
Right. Thank you, Commissioner Clark. I need to remind my colleagues in 10 minutes we have a hearing, so we need to wrap this up. Commissioner Scott, I see Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Pulliam, Commissioner Johnson are in the queue. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. And going back to what Commissioner Clark was saying, we have all these other recreation center that needs information, but still we have $10 million on this SPLOST request for a new park. How are we going to adjust? How do you address that? How do we make sense out of that, amongst other things? You want to rush this through. We cannot rush this through because constituents are looking at us. They fed up with having SPLOST list and things not getting done. And I don't think it's a bad thing that we had money left over on SPLOST. That means that the administrator and finance was doing due diligence in making sure that the money was spent wisely. If we don't have another work session, we're doing a disservice for this community.
All right, hopefully the best discussion we can have. All right, thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Pulliam.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I wanted to address one of the things my colleague from the 5th stated as far as trying to shame people. Although I tend not to make comments or comment back on statements like that, but for me, it's not a matter of trying to shame anyone. It's the fact of what I said, being proactive versus reactive. And we already currently are talking about housing and the housing shortage in the Augusta-Richmond County area. And it's been given to us in several presentations, not just in a government setting, but even as I've sat in rooms where economic development has presented or the Builders Association has presented, there is a housing shortage in Augusta-Richmond County. We looked at rent spikes during COVID, where people's rents went from $700 to $1,500. And so that then trickled into other problems and other issues. So what I am suggesting is not just for possible cuts that are going to be happening in the federal government and being proactive in that way. I'm also looking at addressing an issue that is already currently existing. And so that's where I'm coming from, the ask for the $10 million. Thank you, Administrator Allen.
Thank you, Commissioner Pulliam. Commissioner Johnson, last, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. This will be my last comment, prayerfully. This is how SPLOST works. If anyone has ever sat through a SPLOST session, you know that it's back and forth because this is how a project is made. The commission at the end of the day has the responsibility of allocating this money where we see fit, just like the budget. The administrator and the departments work on the budget. They bring it to us. We dig through it. We make recommendations. That's how we ended up with the 1% cut a couple years ago. We did that outside of what the departments and everybody asked for. This body has the responsibility of divvying up this money. My comments were not to make a shot at anybody or to be rude or whatever my colleague was mentioning. My statements were simple: is that we have a need in our community for affordable housing, and we act like we don't. We know that in the HCD department that those funds are not going to be as readily available to us as they were before. All 11 of us know that. Every single one of us know that. We also know that the federal government is cutting those those dollars for housing. The DCA is filling those cuts. We've already received information about that. Everyone up here knows it. And so, however the communication goes out is not to make a shot at any of my colleagues, because if I want to, I can call names, but I'm not, because that's cheap. That's cheap. What I'm saying here is that if we have a $10 million request for affordable housing, it's not like we're just going to throw the money in the air and let it fall where it falls. That $10 million goes towards incentivizing building. It goes to supplementing building. It goes to offsetting. It goes to emergency rentals. It helps us build where we need the help. And if my colleagues want the messaging to be clear, I will also ask for my colleagues to be truthful in communicating that the dollars that we have historically relied on coming into HCD, we know will not be as readily available to us as before. So let's not make a decision and not have the people who need it, like the folks who are walking into our chambers right now. Let's make sure that we have the money allocated for them.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. And you're right about one thing. These SPLOST conversations throughout other communities that are not consolidated, they get pretty heated. So folks, just know that this is the people's work, the people's business at work. We certainly understand your patience. Commissioner Guilfoyle, you got 1 minute, sir, and then we got to close this out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, I would like to say one thing. If this stuff was these items were so important, why was it brought up months ago? Why did we wait to the day of the vote on a SPLOST package? Madam Administrator, if we don't get this package together and doesn't hit the November ticket, we still have the May ticket to hit on. Is that correct?
Yes, the only thing about doing it in May is that if it doesn't get approved, you're gonna have to wait another 12 months before you can submit another one, which puts you in a very bad bind.
Right, that's correct.
Yes,
I forgot about that.
yes, sir.
You're correct. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, you've asked me to keep it short, so I will. My colleague asked if this was so important, why didn't we mention this months ago? We did in the initial request period. The initial request had a water park money into it. It had money for affordable housing at $34 million. The lock and dam, $3 million. Nobody even used the lock and dam, but we want $3 million for lock and dam. So these projects have been requested before, but we keep going back and forth about cutting for whatever reason. You know, and we want to be amicable about this, but it's extremely frustrating when, you know, the affordable housing need is not south of Richmond County. It's not up Willis Foreman Road.
Commissioner Johnson, thank you, sir. And, you know, there's probably debate on...
I'll stop for now, but I want to put on the record that affordable
sir.
housing is the top need in Richmond County, and this body has to do something about it.
Yeah, but I agree, and we're working through that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this session out. It's hereby adjourned. We need to recess for exactly 10 minutes to give IT the opportunity to set everything up. So we're going to reconvene at 1:10. 1:10. IT needs about 10 minutes to kind of reset everything. 1:10. Ladies and gentlemen, 1:10, we're going to restart, okay? So we're going to be 10 minutes behind, but 1:10 we will start.